Hi, everyone.
All right. So it's live, right, Jenny?
It is.
All right. Well, we'll give it a few seconds for everybody to come in, and then we'll get started.
That's great.
It's always good watching those numbers go.
Yeah. That's right. We'll give it a couple of minutes and get started.
All right, let's give it one more minute and then we'll go.
Sounds good.
And by one more minute, I mean like maybe 10 seconds because that felt like a minute.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. We can kick off. Thank you all for joining today. If this is your first time joining, welcome. If you're a returner, welcome back. If you're not familiar with Elevate Technology User Group, we are an independent customer-led user group for Dell Technologies customers on that multi-cloud journey to modernize their IT infrastructure journey. We bring customers, partners, and employees together to have conversations and share best practices with other industry experts. We do this by hosting in-person meetings like at Dell Technology World, Red Hat, Microsoft, VMware Explore, and then also virtual program like what you're joining today. We will be at Red Hat Summit for our first time this year. So if you plan to attend, we would love to have you there. More details to come later in the program. Same thing for Dell Technology World. If you are there, we would love for you to attend our annual meeting. That's where our biggest event of the year, where we have all of our members join, have conversations, network with folks that are on this call even today. Couple of notes is that we do have a Q&A function and we do have the chat box. So if you have any questions that you want to share with our speakers, please feel free to utilize both that Q&A function and that chat box. With that being said, I will turn it over to you, David, for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Jenny, and welcome everybody to another Elevate Technology User Group Community Hour. We're going to have a great conversation today about Dell Technologies' Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure. And in order to get this done, we need sponsors. I want to thank our sponsors, Dell Technologies, Intel, and Microsoft, for helping us have this conversation. Now, I've got an expert panel for you. We've got Lowe, Vish Balakrishnan, and Kris Turner. And we're going to have conversation about ACP for Azure. Gentlemen, thank you for joining. Kenny, you are the multi-cloud evangelist. Can you introduce yourself, please, to everybody?
Yeah, sure. Kenny Lowe. I lead multi-cloud technical evangelism here at Dell Technologies. I am a 7 or 8, I don't remember, time Microsoft Azure MVP, a Microsoft Regional Director, and if I'm known for anything, it's probably for going completely off the rails when I talk about things that excite me and worrying other people on the call.
Well, that's fantastic. That's what user groups are all about, Kenny. Thank you. Vish, please introduce yourself for everyone.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Kenny. My name is Vishwanathan Balakrishnan. You can call me Vish. I'm one of the product planning manager, part of our multi-cloud group, having responsibilities, especially towards the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure, and learning from customers and partners like you in terms of how we could really continue to innovate and bring in solutions that are very much helping you in terms of this digital transformation, and most importantly, leverage the power of hybrid cloud running on your premises wherever you would like to run.
Awesome. Thank you, Vish. And that's a great point, folks. If you've got questions for anybody, use the chat, use the Q&A. Kris Turner, welcome, and thanks for joining us. You are our special customer / partner participant. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I like being special. Anyway, my name is Kris Turner. I'm a product technology architect at TierPoint, a Dell partner. I'm also a Microsoft Azure Hybrid MVP. I've been an MVP probably a total of two years. 1 year before I joined Microsoft, and then after leaving Microsoft, I became another MVP again. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right, fantastic. And you're also one of the first or the earliest adopters of ACP for Microsoft Azure. And we'll get into that in a second. So thank you for that. Kenny, Vish, can you guys kind of kick it off? Kenny, you were on 6 months ago, roughly in September, after the RTS. If it was 6 months ago, it feels sometimes like just yesterday and other times like over a year. But you know, this is a fast moving market. A lot of things change. Some of the folks might not have been on that call. So could you kind of help ground us, give a little overview and let us know what's been happening with ACP for Azure?
Yeah, absolutely delighted to. And like you, I cannot believe that it's been 6 months since we had this last call. Wow, there has been an awful lot that's happened in that time from a Dell perspective, a Microsoft perspective, and all up Azure hybrid perspective. So let's try and set some context there. Around specifically the Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure and how we're using that to raise the bar for Azure Stack HCI solutions here. And in talking about that, I guess we start off by talking about the Microsoft hybrid vision all up here, because Microsoft is no stranger to hybrid solutions. They have been looking at extending Azure everywhere since day dot, since Azure came into being, because Microsoft was born in the data center company and evolved out to the cloud. So I've always maintained that strong view that hybrid is important to their customers. And really the suite of tools that they use to deliver Azure everywhere is Azure Arc. And Azure Arc is a set of Azure services designed to extend Azure anywhere. And when I say anywhere, I mean anywhere. Azure Arc can bring some value to workloads running in AWS, in Google, in VMware, in you name it, just about anywhere. Azure Arc can bring some value, but for the most part, that value extends to and stops at the workload layer. Infrastructure and underpinnings of how you run your workloads remain the domain of some other infrastructure. So if you're running a VMware environment, you run that independently to your Azure environment, and they're two separate things. What Microsoft does to solve this challenge is they introduced Azure Stack HCI. And Azure Stack HCI is the solution which allows you to extend Azure Arc right through to the infrastructure layer and everything in between to provide consistency from support and licensing and services and management capabilities and everything. It's a disk to cloud and everything in between solution there. But how that's implemented then is super important. And we are no strangers to working with Microsoft on Azure hybrid solutions. This is actually what I would term year 10 of Dell and Microsoft Azure hybrid. Now it's crazy to think, but it was in 2014. I'm taking some artistic license here. 2014, we started working with Microsoft on our Dell hybrid cloud system and cloud platform systems there, which we launched in 2015. So really year 10 now of Azure hybrid, and a few call outs here of some things which have evolved into the Azure Stack HCI we know today is, first of all, the Windows Server software defined reference architectures that we launched in 2017, the Storage Spaces Direct Ready nodes that we launched in 2018, and then 4 years ago now, the Dell integrated system for Microsoft Azure Stack HCI, which has been the mainstay of the Azure Stack HCI ecosystem for those last 4 years. But in September last year, we came on here and proudly announced that we were launching the first premier solution for Azure Stack HCI, the Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure. And it's been just an absolute whirlwind since then. I can't tell you how many late night, sleepless nights and interesting times we've had helping customers with their Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure journey and everything that goes into that. But what if I told you that since we spoke last in September and now there's been another major evolution in the Azure hybrid portfolio here. We launched the premier solution here at the Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure to support Azure Stack HCI, not just as it was in September last year, but as it is now. And in order to understand what that means, let's look at what Azure Stack HCI was. I call this the Azure Stack HCI of yesteryear. Why do I do that? Because when I was growing up, my parents had a cassette tape called The Great Singers of Yesteryear, which was just a whole bunch of songs from decades gone by. So I use yesteryear all the time now, but that's why I speak about that. But Azure Stack HCI, as it was from February 2020 when it launched through to January this year, was what we see here. It was Dell hardware for the most part, and the Azure Stack HCI operating system on top of here. And Azure Stack HCI was an operating system delivering features and functionality to our joint customers there. And the way that we validated that was, well, the way that it was possible to validate that was twofold. You could validate it as a validated node, which is a one-time validation activity, and then support the hardware for 5 years. Dell never got into that market because we didn't see any value to our customers there. But what we delivered with that Dell integrated system for Microsoft Azure Stack HCI for the last 4 years was, spoiler alert, an integrated system. And there we had validation 2 to 4 times a year. It was cluster level validation. It ensured that when there were new releases of the Azure Stack HCI operating system, they would continue to work well on that Dell hardware there. And that's delivered a great solution for the last 4 years. But in February 2024, Microsoft evolved what Azure Stack HCI fundamentally is. It's still hardware. It's still an Azure Stack HCI operating system. There's now a whole bunch of new stuff that comes with Azure Stack HCI by default. And Microsoft call this version Azure Stack HCI 23H2 because it just trips off the tongue. So Azure Stack HCI 23H2, which was launched in February this year, now also comes with a VM, one VM on every Azure Stack HCI system, which they call the Arc Resource Bridge. That Arc Resource Bridge contains a whole bunch of Microsoft microservices, which do a whole load of different things. They give us Azure Kubernetes Service. By default, you have AKS available in your Azure Stack HCI system now, just out of the box there. They include what they call the MOC stack, the Microsoft On-Premises Cloud Stack, which is a bunch of deep integrations up stack to the Azure public cloud. And they include a lifecycle management engine for orchestrating a bunch of the deployment and ongoing lifecycle management of the solution here. But in the Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure, we also follow this model, and I forgot something. There's also a whole bunch of Azure Arc extensions here. So previously, while features were delivered as part of the operating system, now they're delivered as what's called Azure Arc extensions, which are really just agents installed on the operating system here. But having the features delivered through Arc extensions really opens the gates for Microsoft to push updates through there much faster. So instead of having 2 to 4 updates per year, now you can have updates every month. Faster if they wanted, but probably not. That's a bit too fast. But the Azure Arc extensions here allow us to get updates at a much more rapid cadence there. And so we have created also a VM, which is deployed with every Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure, which does basically the same thing as the Microsoft Arc Resource Bridge does. It contains a whole bunch of microservices, which do all the downstack integration and integration into the wider Dell ecosystem. Those of you familiar with VxRail will recognize this model from the VxRail Manager days and the VxRail HCI system software. Same model. In fact, this is a derivative of that software here, delivering a lot of those integrations and capabilities that you are already familiar with if you know VxRail. And because large tech companies love their TLAs, their 3-letter acronyms, that's what I've used here to fill in this box here. But this is all lifecycle management capabilities and our continuously validated state and known good state, and building pre-checks and additional capabilities around the Microsoft Lifecycle Management Engine. The Apex Cloud Platform Manager is how we do our infrastructure integrations into Microsoft tooling, like Windows Admin Center and the Azure portal. And it's how we integrate into Cloud IQ, Secure Connect Gateway, and deliver Apex Flex on Demand capabilities there as well. And as if all of this wasn't enough, we've also created a whole new way of validating this full stack as well. So now instead of validating these updates after the fact, after Microsoft ships them, we've built out a whole continuous validation environment in Microsoft Engineering, where as Microsoft is testing their updates, they are also continually validating those updates on our infrastructure as well. So there's a CI/CD pipeline, which is constantly testing these updates. So basically, at the point when Microsoft releases an update for this full stack, it has been validated on the Dell Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure, and we support it immediately. Well, maybe not immediately. There is a tiny little delay of 4 hours. So we say there's a 4-hour delay from Microsoft releasing until you can actually deploy these updates. That allows for content distribution, replication, things like that. It's effectively an instant ability to apply any update as you want, have that already fully tested, and off you go. David, I've spoken way too much. Take the mic away from me. Why don't you just tell me to be quiet, or I'll keep going forever.
Oh, that's great, Kenny. Thanks for that baseline. It's fast moving. It's really fast moving. I think that that ties everything back to particularly a lot of the Elevate members are either very familiar with VxRail or own VxRail. So tying that back and bringing in the VxRail-like experience, I think that can help with everybody understanding what's going on and just how powerful this can be. Vish, you're running product management for this product. Certainly comment on anything Kenny delivered, but if you could, without going into NDA level stuff, can you give members a sense of what's coming and what to expect?
Absolutely. And before I do that, in terms of what's coming, I also want to kind of touch upon what like our members can really take advantage of, what I call as how the Dell innovations are powering the super cloud, right? So I kind of put it into 3 to 5 themes, which I would like everybody to get the high level understanding in terms of like what Kenny touched upon in terms of making it as a premier solutions. And most importantly, what is the Dell is doing differently, learning from our experience in terms of building converged systems, integrated systems, and also hyperconverged infrastructure. Most importantly, with our flagship VxRail, we have been having all of those, innovations now, bringing into the Azure world, most importantly, bringing that hyperconverged infrastructure power and making it as a truly hybrid cloud infrastructure. That's where you would see that hybrid cloud solution being the first one in my team, which essentially brings in the capability, what Kenny talked about in terms of how wherever customers are going and deploying, depending on their needs, be it in terms of data center, edge, colo, remote office, branch office, we want to make sure between Microsoft, how they are making this in terms of Arc enable and bringing any infrastructure anywhere management a reality in helping customers to move towards getting that best-in-class hybrid cloud management solution and integration. And the second theme, what you see is the multi-cloud ecosystem. That's where we kind of come with a common infrastructure, which can really go and power between the cloud infrastructure, making it as a cloud infrastructure, and then making the cloud OS running on-premise wherever it is. And most importantly, also having the capability to go into data mobility, application mobility between on-prem and the cloud, and also between the clouds, right? So we have Apex block storage for Azure that is launched, which is leveraging the PowerFlex block storage. So the good news is we are going to go and introduce the ability to go and do the Dell Enterprise Software Defined Storage in the form of PowerFlex block storage, which we are going to go and add support. And I will talk about that in a tad bit. So that is one of the theme in terms of how for organizations that where they're looking for more performance oriented applications and more data getting created. How can we help them in terms of the journey towards keeping it on premise where they would want to keep it, right? For that evolving storage needs, bringing in that performance. That's where the enterprise software defined storage comes in. And I did touch upon about the innovation that we are bringing in our management, automation, and orchestration using the Apex Cloud Platform Foundation software, making it seamless right from the initial deployment from a time to value perspective, and also ensuring that for capabilities towards how we could help customers towards whenever there's a new way in terms of going and adding a node and expansion kind of capabilities, or in terms of giving them the power in terms of the integrated support and serviceability options as well. All of that power through Apex Cloud Platform Foundation software. And the last bit, what you see is the choice and flexibility, what I kind of call it as like depending on the need of the customer, where they want to go and run and their environment, they can choose between our 1U and 2U offerings. And later this year, we would also bring in the Edge curated offer, leveraging XR4000, bringing it to the multi-cloud environment as a MC4000, coming in second half of this year. So I want to kind of set the stage in terms of what is the high-level value prop that really the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure brings in. These are the 5 themes that I'm really kind of excited based on what we have been learning from customers, and then prioritizing it to ensure that it goes in fit their needs and also go and solve their most pressing problems. Most importantly, giving them the flexibility in terms of going and running on premise where they want to, and bringing the power of cloud running on premise in the form in terms of how and where the data is living and where their applications are living. Now coming to the roadmap itself, like I think I talked about the enterprise software-defined storage. So that's where I'm kind of excited, like in a week from now, we would be like unveiling the PowerFlex block storage in terms of how customers can start taking advantage of it shortly. And then we would also continue that innovation to bring in validated design wherein customers for their evolving workload needs, right? Be it in terms of like traditional workloads, be it in terms of any mission critical workloads and cloud native workloads, any of those where they decide to go and take advantage of the Dell PowerFlex, if they have it in their environment, they feel comfortable and their data is growing. Now we are extending the capability beyond storage spaces, right? Working in collaboration with Microsoft to go and run a two-tier kind of an extended storage to go and power those multitude of workloads, right? Where scale, performance, are those factors in consideration. The PowerFlex block storage, running it in a extended two-tier would be of a great fit, which is coming. That's one thing in terms of how we are making the theme that I am showing real for our customers. And the second thing in terms of the hybrid cloud is where we are already embarking on the journey of providing the hybrid integration. We started off that already with our recent release that Kenny talked about with 23H2. We started supporting early in March. In that release, we already have released a Dell Azure workbook, which can help customers to go and monitor and get hardware-related insights and alerts right from the Azure portal. And it kind of provides a single unified view with what Microsoft already provides from Azure monitoring and Azure Insights from a dedupe and compression. So both of that in a single unified view, now customers will be able to take advantage of going and monitoring the hardware right from the Azure portal in the Azure Insights and Azure Monitor. And in a tad bit from now, we are going to also release a multi-cluster workbook, and that would give you the capability in terms of fleet management, making it a reality for any of those Azure IT estate across the globe that customers are running. We'll be able to now take advantage of once we release this the multi-cluster workbook. You'd be able to see in a single dashboard all of the health alerts associated from a monitoring perspective for the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure, going towards n number of clusters and nodes, and that can be in thousands and whatever limit what Microsoft is enabling, we will be there to go and do that. And a few other things which we already delivered, which I want to touch upon is we introduced 6 months back the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure. And after that, we have kind of now added the capability to go and do cluster expansions, be it in terms of scale-out clusters or be it in terms of scale-up clusters. Now, customers would be able to take advantage of in terms of doing this in a much more automated fashion, right? And that is something is available through the Apex Cloud Platform Foundation software. And we will continue to innovate what really matters based on the feedback that we are hearing from customers and partners, which are most pressing towards saying, okay, how can we really make it much more seamless? And most importantly, give the control so that they get to choose what they want to run and when. And a few things which we are already, I think Kenny touched upon is the 4-hour update, for example, right? What I have heard from customers is some of the customers want to do it in a, like go and try it before pushing it to the production. So this gives the capability as soon as we make it available in the 4-hour window where they can take advantage of it and see in a pre-production environment whether they want that particular update coming from Microsoft. So it gives the choice and flexibility, and customers get to decide when they can really go and take advantage of it. But the good news is it's already available as soon as Microsoft makes it available. And from a Dell perspective, every quarterly, we release the baseline bundle, which includes all of the Microsoft updates, plus the Dell updates, be it into the vast format drivers, including the Apex Cloud Platform Foundation software, all of those coming in. And that's what we released last month with the support for 23H2.
That's a lot of stuff, Vish, and it's a lot of really exciting things. It sounds like it's going to make it even more powerful and easier or simpler to use from the customer perspective.
Absolutely.
And Kris, speaking of customers, TierPoint is you own this and you are also a partner. So can you give folks a sense of, if for those who are not familiar with TierPoint, what TierPoint is and what TierPoint does for your customers, and then what your role at TierPoint is, please?
Yeah, so I'll give you the marketing spill for what TierPoint does here. So basically, we're a leading provider of secure and connected IT platform solutions that basically power the digital transformation of thousands of clients that we have, from public to private sectors, small businesses, Fortune 500 companies. We like to say that we are a champion for untangling the complexity of the hybrid and multi-platform approaches to IT infrastructure, and which we draw on a comprehensive portfolio of services, from public to multi-tenant to private cloud. We do co-location and disaster recovery solutions, security, and more. TierPoint, we're also one of the largest, most geographically diverse U.S. footprints, with dozens of world-class cloud-ready data centers across 20 markets. That's connected coast to coast with the coast-to-coast networks. That's us in a nutshell. Like you said, we are a Dell partner. We also are a Microsoft partner. We have a couple of solution designations under our belts for the last 10 years. We've been a Dell partner for over 10 plus years. And I'll just throw this out there because we're also a Pinnacle partner with VMware as well. So I just wanted to mention that because we're going to be talking about that a little bit here today. My name is, for my role, I'm a product technology architect. TierPoint last September, a little earlier, was already looking to provide our customers kind of a Microsoft private cloud solution. As I mentioned, we have a lot of customers on VMware, but at the time, we had some customers that were kind of interested in a Microsoft solution. So they brought me in with my experience with Azure Stack HCI, Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack Edge, and just the whole hybrid portfolio that Microsoft has. They actually announced that that SharePoint and Dell back in September that we were going to provide a solution running on the Dell Apex hardware as well, working together. So when they brought me in, before we even went to the Apex route, that was the goal for them. And then, of course, with some of the stuff that's happening with VMware, it's becoming more and more obvious that a alternative solution should be available to customers who might be thinking about leaving that solution for specific reasons. So now, yeah, anyway, sorry.
No, not sorry at all. That's great, Kris, and thanks. So from conversations we've had, you mentioned that TierPoint's a Dell partner. You guys have not only the I would argue one of the first ACP for Microsoft Azure products that shipped, certainly probably the first installed. But you guys also are helping to drive digital and IT transformation for your customers by partnering with Dell solutions. I think you talked about what are some of the storage options that you guys use, and then I think TierPoint also has VxRail, correct?
Yes, we're a huge VxRail shop. Of course, everything on that is VMware currently running on those platforms. We're just getting into PowerFlex, mainly because of the capability of providing that external storage to our hyper-converged infrastructures. Then we are also, and I'm going to mispronounce the name, I'm sorry again. I'm used to saying Isilon. We have a lot of Dell Isilon, which is now Power
Scale.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm not a storage guy.
That's not a problem.
But we do have a pretty big presence with Power Scale. So we are very familiar working with alongside Dell as a partner, and working with the Dell hardware solutions that you guys provide in the storage side, and then VxRail and now the Apex, of course.
Well, if we could get into that, I think it'd be really helpful for members to hear what your experience has been so far with ACP for Azure, but also why were you excited about it, or what are you excited about What are your plans? Gosh, I've got so many questions, so I guess I need to slow down a little bit and say, you took delivery of this back in January. How's it gone so far, or what are you expecting from this product?
So we ordered it in January. When actually we ordered, probably, it was around we got delivered on January. We immediately had the 22H2 version of ACI deployed. That was the bits that were available. 23H2 was not going to go GA for a few more weeks, and then on the Apex solution, it wasn't going to be. That's probably going to be a little longer before the bits were going to be available for Apex. But between some of our connections between the Microsoft product group and of course Dell, we were able to be the first customer worldwide to actually get the 23H2 bits installed on our Apex solution. And that was actually on February 14th, Valentine's Day. So
and that's what created the late night for Kenny, because for those listening who don't know, there's a bit of a time zone difference between where Kris and the delivery of his product is and where Kenny actually lives. So that's what created the late night.
Yes. And it was a good process. Since we were some of the first, we walked through probably a lot more than we got to see a lot more than what the Apex solution for most customers will see, just because of our partnership and some of the stuff that knowing Kenny well and some other engineers that were involved. But yeah, so for that deployment went very well. We've actually since then redeployed, not because of anything, no issues, but we wanted to see the whole process from start to beginning, and that was pretty much was painless. The entire solution from once we get the node and once the nodes are up and the engineer would come in, from start to finish, from handoff, was very painless. As in the sense that we would do very little in the sense of compared to what we would do if we were to deploy ACI 23H2 on an integrated system. There's a lot more work that we would have to do in the back end, and our engineers have to do in the back end to get anywhere near the automation that we have with Apex.
That's fantastic. So as you guys are doing this and practicing this, have you identified any lessons learned for other customer members who might be looking at ACP for Azure or going down that path? Is there anything there that jumps to mind that you would share to help accelerate the community?
I'm just trying to think, but not in a negative way toward Apex, but there's nothing but the Apex solution itself has been very well. But we've had some bumps along the road when we deployed some of these clusters, mainly because 23H2 Azure Stack ACI is a very fast moving solution from Microsoft, I want to say. So there's a lot of changes, a lot of new features coming, and so there's been bumps along the way on the back end from the Microsoft side. So lessons learned is just to be patient. If something doesn't work at that moment, which is probably guaranteed to start working again and the next day, a week later. Microsoft is very good at, when you get connected with them, fixing those solutions and making sure that any bumps that we've had along the way, they do get resolved fairly fast. And the big bumps. So lessons learned, I think, for me is be patient. Not because more on the Microsoft solution side, less on the ACP side.
Sure. And Kenny, the call when problems happen or if there's any sort of question, right? That's what's that phone call? Is that a 1-800-Dell phone call?
Yeah, it's actually customer choice. I mean, you have the choice to contact Dell or Microsoft, and we have back-end ticketing integration to pass between us to make that a seamless process for the customer as much as possible. I mean, as part of that Apex Cloud Platform Foundation software I spoke about earlier, one of the integrations we have into Windows Admin Center there is to build the full support experience into the Microsoft Windows Admin Center tooling. So you can log into Windows Admin Center, go to the Dell extension, go to support, and log a ticket from there. You can see all our latest knowledge base articles. You can configure a Secure Connect gateway and do call home functionality. It's all designed to be integrated into the Microsoft ecosystem there as well. It's pretty cool.
I like to bring up that lessons learned for myself. I'm one of those, some of my friends kind of razz me for not reading documentation sometimes. So there's the only few bumps that I've had along the way, like McKinney mentioned in the support side of the Windows Admin Center for the extension for Apex. There is a list of knowledge base articles that are pretty much updated recently, not daily, but as problems arise. And the small little issues that we've had would have been answered quickly if I would have just gone and looked at some of those knowledge base issues. And anyway, yes, I just wanted to touch on that part. That's a lesson learned is that.
That's great. So earlier we were talking, Kris, about your different storage options and what you were excited about. Vish touched on something that's coming. Is it next week, Vish?
Yeah, so next week we would be kind of bringing in terms of the PowerFlex block storage, how customers can start taking advantage of. It'll be a white paper that we will publish, and then follow on would be a validated, design validated solution that we will come out with in terms of supporting PowerFlex as a two-tier extended storage available for Apex Cloud Platform for Azure, essentially making it as a fully supported solution for Azure Stack HCI.
Yeah, and so that's great, Vish. And Kris, I think you're excited about that. Can you share a bit what you're excited about or what your plans are and how you might put that work case to use?
Yeah, so I'm excited. We actually have in process our first PowerFlex. Well, our first PowerFlex solution for this being installed as we speak this week. So we could go next week and we could actually take advantage of having that external storage. And some of the use cases we might see is we might have excuse me, we might have customers who have large terabytes of database material, larger than the 64. I think there's a 64 terabyte limit on virtual disk that can be used in source spaces direct. And correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not correct or not, but so we do have customers who have larger databases than 64 terabytes. So that's going to be limited. That would be a limitation of the storage spaces direct on HCI. But with this PowerFlex solution, we could offload that kind of storage onto PowerFlex and still have that performance that we would see with the storage, software-defined storage across HCI as well as on top of the PowerFlex solution as well. So that's the kind of that's what we're thinking, at least in this product development that we're working on right now with our Apex solution. That's one of the roadmaps that we're going to be looking at.
The way I would characterize it is that Storage Spaces Direct is really good at being small, and it's really doing a great job in small clusters at the edge. The 2 to 6 node, 1 to 6 node type clusters that we're seeing deployed at the edge all the time just now. PowerFlex is really good at being bigger and also multi-ecosystem and multi-cluster there as well. So they're very complementary solutions. Adding PowerFlex as an option alongside Storage Spaces Direct just unlocks a whole bunch of new opportunities for storage in the Azure Stack HCI ecosystem that just haven't been there before. So that is really exciting.
Yeah, we're excited for that too, because we have customers who will definitely take advantage of that.
And we can't really talk about it right now, but DTW is coming. Kris, you're going to be at DTW. Kenny, you'll be there. Vish, you'll be there too, right?
No, this year I'm not going. Kenny is there.
Oh, bummer. All right, my bad. I should have done my homework first. Sorry about that. Well, you will be missed, but Kris and Kenny, hopefully you guys can make it to the user group meeting at DTW. Kris, I know that we should be looking for some announcements from TierPoint and you guys in the weeks leading up to that. That's the extent of my teaser. I don't think I want to push that a little further, but for those attending, listen and look in the news. That should be exciting. We're coming up on about 20 minutes till the top of the hour. Kenny, we've got a bunch, and Vish, we've got a bunch of Q&A. I don't know if you guys have been able to look at that. So I want to make sure we can address that. We'll hit the Q&A.
Yeah,
Kris.
I can touch on a bunch of these. Carl has asked a few excellent questions. If I had to characterize a bunch of them, which I'm going to tap as answer live just now, I would characterize them as being around PowerSizer and around sizing ACP for Azure solutions. Actually, let me read out a couple of things first. Number one, I'm amazed about the integration of MC nodes. So thank you, Carl. And we've put a huge amount of time and energy into that. You're seeing a surge of requests for Azure Stack HCI. We are seeing the same as well out in the market. So the questions here I'd characterize about being, are lots of new features going to come to PowerSizer? And the short answer is yes, it's an evolving product and will continue to evolve the functionality within there. Where there's specific functionality you want, send me a mail and we'll feed that back into the PowerSizer team there, and that can help drive that process there as well. On the bottom question there, Vish, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I go to the last question, I think on the PowerSizer, like Kenny mentioned, right, some of these things we are continuing to evolve, and these are great questions and comments. We are continuing to ensure that we are able to provide furthermore recommendation from a sizing perspective, leveraging those IOPS and all of those that you have referred, and most importantly, also taking advantage of the live optics data, importing into PowerSizer. All of those is kind of something which we will continue to go on and add as part of our PowerSizer 2. Coming to the question from Carl again, and the last one, the news to share about XR 4000. It's definitely coming in for the ACP for Azure. We will have it as an MC 4000, the multi-cloud node for the Azure MC 4000, both in terms of the rackable and the stackable format, and also the ruggedized version, which would bring in the full capability of the 1U compute slide, the 2U compute slide, and even having the capability to go and run GPUs as well. All of that is coming. We are still working on, but expect that sometime like Q4 calendar year this year is where tentatively I can give you a timeline. And in terms of the second one, point to bring in the open managed integration for those of you looking at the acronym of OMIMS WAC, that's the open managed integration. We have it with our AX nodes. And the question is, features to the Azure portal could not touch 23H2 with MC yet. Okay, yeah, we would love for you to have the MC node soon. But the good news is the integration in terms of what the open managed integration has is things in terms of the Azure policy and some capability in terms of Azure Monitor. We are already released for the MC nodes to bring in the features from a hybrid management. I think I touched upon introducing the Dell Azure workbook from a single cluster. We already launched. The multi-cluster is coming in shorter. If your question is more towards the AX nodes, the AX nodes would continue to add some features, what is available in the WAC towards the Azure portal as well, as Microsoft is pivoting towards the direction of managing everything through the portal, like things like going and doing the updates from an Azure Updates Manager. The MC nodes from an ACP solution is already started implementing and providing the capability to go into monthly patches and the security updates from the Azure Updates Manager. We are working closely with Microsoft to bring in the capability to do the full stack lifecycle management from the Azure Updates Manager. We are working closely with Microsoft. I would expect sometime later this year to bring in the full stack lifecycle management as well. Then the last one I see, sizing solutions, I heavily rely on the Intel CPU, ARC and their calculator. If you have source data like live optics, feasible to partner here with Intel and AMD to bring their calculators data into PowerSizer. I think some of those we need to look into the specifics, right, in terms of what we could bring in as part of live optics. We can definitely, I'm more than happy to discuss that with the live optics team and then see how we could move forward on that.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's great. Kris, we're wrapping up here. We're approaching the top of the hour. Are there any things that you didn't get to share with the members that you'd like to share with them before we sign off?
I can share a little bit. Kind of why we came with the decision to go to Apex was one of the, because we could have went with an integrated system. We could have gone with, I'm not going to say we could have gone with a validated system, or would not do that, even though they're there. But when we started hearing about Apex, part of it was my personal experience with Dell in the past. Then also I have relationships with Dell employees, so that trust was there. But overall it was the foundation, the ACP Foundation software that kind of sold it for us. And the things that come with the Premier solution versus an integrated solution, especially when we are in the lifecycle management piece, was a huge piece of Apex that we really look forward to, and having that ease of being able to feel confident that, like as Kenny explained earlier, when that 4-hour time window, when Microsoft has already sent out a patch, we're going to get that patch within 4 hours to deploy. We don't have to wait and test that on our own systems. We're going to feel comfortable enough and trust that Dell and Microsoft has tested it on this system, and then we can just deploy and go without any issues. So that was one of the huge advantages of going with Apex over integrated system. And that's, I mean, there's a lot more things we could get out of Apex than just that, but the lifecycle management was a huge selling point for us.
Great, Kris. Those are good points. A lot of it sounds very similar to what I hear customers who have VxRail experience talk about with their VxRail. It's great to hear that that history and those feature sets really helped drive your decision there. You mentioned something that I'd like either Kenny or Vish to highlight. You mentioned a Premier solution, and I think that's also something that we need to highlight. Kenny or Vish, can you guys just give the baseline between the Premier solution versus the other integrated solution?
Yeah. Wow. Here's another 20 minutes for us to go. The way I would characterize it, and I've used that phrase a lot now, so apparently it's a catchphrase, but the way I would characterize this is that the Premier solution category was designed to support Azure Stack HCI as it is now, not as it was in previous guises there. So it's there really to support this idea that it is a hybrid cloud solution fully integrated into Azure, and with updates being delivered at cloud cadence, you need a rock solid foundation to support that. And a bunch of the features designed and developed for the Premier solution category are really there to provide that rock solid foundation to ensure that updates will work and work continuously and robustly when they get deployed there. And then with the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure, we provide a lot more on top of that Premier solution requirements there, because there are a bunch of baseline requirements for the Premier solution category from Microsoft, and we extend further beyond that as well with things like the PowerFlex storage, for example, which is a unique differentiator here, which isn't available from anyone else here. So we take that, what I would call the baseline of what is needed to run Azure Stack HCI effectively now, which is a Premier solution, and we extend it even further with the Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft Azure.
Thank you, Kenny. Well, I'm checking time. I'm looking at Q&A. I think, was this one answered already? I think there's just one left. We might have answered that. Just take a quick look at it. If a customer begins with AX nodes now, what can we tell about installation with 23H2 as a start?
Yeah, it's coming in shortly, actually. We will be going and bringing the support for 23H2 with AX nodes. If that is the choice customer is buying, we still have it available. And 23H2 support is going to be coming in, I believe, sometime next month.
Thanks, Vish. All right. I see Jenny's popped up. Thank you, Jenny. Good to see you here. Kris Turner, thank you, sir, for sharing your experience thus far. We look forward to seeing you at Dell Technologies World, and please swing by the Elevate Technology User Group meeting on Tuesday at 3 p.m. local at DTW, so that you can talk to other folks. And if there's any members here who want to talk to Kris in person, Kris, please swing by so that they can pick your brain. Kenny, you'll be there. So if anybody wants to talk with Kenny, please swing by the user group meeting on Tuesday, the week of DTW, and pick Kenny's brain. Vish, maybe we'll FaceTime with you. We'll bring you in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm available all the time. If there is a meeting that needs to be done, more than happy to participate, because as we continue to innovate and bring it as part of a roadmap, it's always very important to hear from the voice of our customer and partners, right? That's where we can continue to innovate and go and solve the most pressing problem, what our customers are really looking forward to be solved from Dell.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Vish. And you guys are so customer focused. Just by being here, thank you for supporting that. But if you want to take Vish up on that, either reach out to your salesperson or reach out to member services at elevateusergroup.com, and we can get you put that way, connected that way. Jenny,
Absolutely.
I think I need to turn it over to you. I've got all
Yes.
sorts of alarms going off on this end. I can't
No
stop 'em.
worries. This is a great
Thank you for
conversation.
attending,
Thank
folks,
you,
and
everyone,
thanks for our
joining.
sponsors, Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and Intel. Jenny, back to you.
There we go. There we go. Well, thanks everyone again for joining. As David mentioned, I've put some links in the chat for you to fill out to register for our event at DTW. And if you're attending the Red Hat Summit in Denver on May 7th, we're going to have an event there as well. We do have a survey that I posted in the chat that we would love for you to fill out. It gives us just a little bit more information of what we've done today, what you liked, what we can improve on, and some content that you would like to see for future community hours. Once you fill out that survey, you'll be entered into a drawing, and one of you will win a gift card. So more to come on that. But with all of that being said, thank you all for attending, and we will see you at the next community hour. Take care, everyone.
Thanks all.